guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. My name is Miss Cammie and today we get to paint a super cute gnome in celebration of the 4th of July together. So before we get started, let me just remind you that we're all different and so our paintings are going to be different and our techniques are going to be different. So let's just relax a little bit and enjoy this opportunity to create together, okay? So let's grab a large brush. This is the one that I love to use. You might have one that's a little bit smaller than this, and that's totally fine, but I'm going to use this nice big one, okay? Let's go ahead and get our bristles loose with some water. Tap off any extra water that we have, remembering our paint gets thirsty, okay? And I'm going to go right into my white paint, load my brush, and to start, I'm just going to paint inside of my gnome's white beard here. Now this will kind of be hard to see because of course our canvas is white, but it's really important that we wet our surface because we're going to blend a little bit of gray around the edges of our beard, and in order for acrylic paint to blend, it has to blend wet into wet, okay? So once we have just that surface wet a little bit, we're going to load it again with some white paint and then just tap the edge slightly into black. You see it's just barely there. And then we're going to go along the edge of our gnome's beard here. You can see it just turns it right to gray with that white on our brush. You can kind of go over it a couple of times. If your paint isn't laying down on your canvas well, check for water. Remember that we need to constantly be referring to the consistency of our paint. We also need to remember that we're going to be coming back to add some lines around our gnome. So this doesn't have to be perfect by any means. We're just getting that first layer onto our painting here, so it's nice and easy going around the base here of our cute little guy. And now we want to make sure that we add some shadows, so there's going to be a shadow right under our wavy flag and around our nose. So let's continue to load the same way, white paint with a little bit of black. Let's go directly under our fun wavy American flag here. You can see just a nice shadow goes in there really easy, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing kind of going around our nose here. Just nice and light. Not too worried about getting some gray into our nose because we haven't done that yet. So we can add that. And then you can see I just kind of go around a little bit, making sure that's all blended in good, adding some nice dimension. Okay, super easy. We're done with that step, so let's wash our brush really well. Swish it around in our water. You can hear me swishing it. It's important that our brush is nice and clean, and you got to kind of scrub the bottom of your jar. Let's move to the background, which is a nice turquoise. I'm going to lighten it up with some white. So I'm going to scoop some white over here, mix it together. Got to always remember that our paint dries a little bit darker on our canvas. So I tend to lighten it up quite a bit before I go to my canvas. So we're just going to get this background in, which goes pretty quickly if you have a nice load on your brush, okay? So kind of scoop it when you need to when you're covering large surfaces. This is a great time to wrap your canvas as well. So go ahead and go around the edges so that you have a nice completed piece. Just kind of carefully go around our gnome here. Again, we don't have to have it perfect by any means. We don't need to worry too much about clean lines because we're going to be coming back and cleaning that up a little bit later. Okay, so let's go over to this side, brushing it in. I'm referring to water quite a bit. You'll know when you need water. Your paint will start to feel pretty tight, almost like glue is what I tell the kids. It's like painting with Elmer's glue. That's what you don't want. So we'll just go around this side of our cute little gnome. If you get some into that beard, that's okay. Like I said, we're going to go back and clean it up a little bit. Of course, you don't want to get too sloppy. You want to still pay attention to what your brush is doing, but sometimes we worry too much about these steps, and by the end of it, we can't even tell that we made those little mistakes. So once that background is in, I like to add a little white to one corner of my brush, kind of lighten up around my gnome. Again, just brightening up our canvas, adding some light around this cute guy. Again, I like to make sure that my painting is nice and bright. And you don't really realize how dark it is until everything dries, so it's good to add that light when you can here. So with that white corner of my brush facing the gnome, I'm just going to go around it, nice and easy like that, and then blend it in wherever it feels that it needs it. All right, there we go. Let's wash our brush again, swish it around. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to a smaller flat. Maybe you've been using a smaller flat this whole time, so just stick with that brush. If not, go ahead and grab a smaller flat, or even a round will be good for this step. You just want something a little bit smaller so you could feel a little bit more in control. Again, we need to get our bristles wet. We're going to do all the red on our gnome, so let's go right into that. No need to add white to our red, because then we would get pink. We don't want pink here. We want a nice red, white, and blue gnome here to celebrate the 4th of July. So let's just start on our stripes. Okay, and again, this is a great time to wrap the canvas. You can go right over the top, follow those stripes. That way you've got a nice finished piece that you can display for the holidays or year-round. Whatever you want to do that way. Get this last one over here. I'm gonna be extra careful to stay out of my white lines, because if I don't get any paint in there, I don't even have to go paint white inside of those, because the canvas is white. So that's just a step that isn't necessary. So if I'm really careful and keep those lines nice and white, I eliminate a step I'll have to do later. Okay, so let's continue to move down our canvas. Let's get the rim of our gnome's hat here, which is also red. So we're just going to come around here. This is nice and easy to do with a flat brush, so that's what I would suggest. But I find that those who are a little bit new to painting sometimes prefer a round brush. They just feel more in control. So if that's the case for you, that is totally fine. You do that because this is supposed to be enjoyable and not stressful. So if you're feeling stressed out with the brush you're using, we can accomplish a lot of paintings with a lot of different brushes. So you switch it up whenever you need to. You can tell my paint is getting a little dry, so add some water. It'll start to, my brush strokes will start to break a little bit, and that's usually an indication that my paint needs some water. It's getting thirsty. All right, let's move to our flag and do our red stripes on our flag. My flat brush is just about the width of these stripes, so that works out for me. But again, you could definitely do this with a round brush. I'm just gonna come around here. Don't forget, we're gonna clean up these lines later, so let's not stress too much. Just getting that main layer in there. Super cute. I love the 4th of July, and I love this festive gnome. He just makes me excited for some fireworks and some celebrations. Okay, we have one more stripe here at the base, so we'll just follow our lines. If you can't do this in one stroke, you might need to check again the consistency of your paint and the load on your brush. Those are two things that can really affect a full stroke without breaking. All right, so we've got all of our red in, but before we move on, I'm gonna go ahead and give a nice load to my brush and a little corner of white on my brush here. I'm gonna add some light up in the hat. I'm gonna go on either side. So I switch my brush. You can see I have the white side facing the edge of one stripe here, and then I switch it and it faces the other one. So just do that up and down this hat here. Give it again, gotta give it some nice dimension, okay, and some light. You can go back and kind of blend that in a little bit. Just like so. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the same thing on the rim of our hat. So just a little bit of white on one corner of our brush. Okay, and we're gonna come around here, just give a nice highlight right there. Come across the top of our hat, but not all the way. We're just gonna kind of go halfway there. And we'll do the same thing over here. These are just small touches of light, because if we do too much, again, we're going to end up with a pink hat. And we want to steer clear of that, right? All right, this is looking good. Let's wash out that brush again. You might see that I got a little bit of red in my background, so I'm going to show you how to fix that real quick. Just go into some white paint and just cover it up with white first, okay? And then you can go into your background color and paint over that. And just kind of blend it in. You really want to utilize your white paint. It's got the most pigment, so it'll really help you fix any touch-ups if you use the white first. All right, let's rinse that out really good. And now it's time to move on to our blue, okay? So we've got a nice phthalo blue here that I want to lighten up just a little bit. So I'm going to pull in some white, give it a nice mix here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do that stripe on our hat first. I'm going to come up here. Isn't this fun? It just immediately pulls that fun 4th of July vibe here. When we get that blue on there. Super fun. And just switch your brush different directions to get a nice square edge. Push your paint all the way to the end of the bristles. And that'll help you get a nice clean line. Okay, So now let's go ahead and add some of that darker blue to the bottom of corner of our brush, and we're just going to paint in, blend in a little bit of a shadow there at the bottom. I want the base of our hat, that little rim, to be a little bit darker. Okay, and then we'll go into some white and we'll add a little bit of light at the top here. So just try and go right across the top. Again, we're blending this all in while our paint is wet, right? That's really important. Okay, now we're going to come down to our flag here, and we're going to go around our star. All right, so again, you can switch up your brush if you're feeling a little uneasy about using this flat, but you can also switch to the toe of your brush to go around smaller little sections. That'll help you. Sometimes it's fun to see how much we can paint with one brush before we have to switch it. Or at least I think that's fun to do. Kind of challenge yourself a little bit. Get in these little sections here. All right, looking awesome. Let's wash our brush again. Give it a really super good rinse. Very important, because we're going to go into our nose and our little hands. So we're going to go into a light color here. We want to make sure there isn't any blue or red in our brush. And let's pull a little white to our skin tone here and lighten it up just a tad. And let's fill in that nose. That nice big nose that's peeking out of the hat here. Perfect. Let's just, while it's wet, add a little white to our brush and give this nose a nice highlight here on the side. I like to do this as I go because I'll give a nice blend while it's wet. Let's move to our cute little hands holding the flag. Go around these. Fill those in and highlight as we go with a little bit of white. We'll just add a nice touch of light to our hands here. Round. Don't worry too much about your outline, your pencil mark showing. Remember, we're going to clean that up later. We don't want to spend too much time worrying about stuff that's not going to matter as we go. So just think about that as you're painting. Sometimes it's really hard to tell yourself, okay, that doesn't matter. We're going to get to it later. So just try and remind yourself that. All right, let's wash that out. Let's go ahead and go to our black. Okay, it's time to do our flagpole and our shoes. I'm going to continue with my smaller flat. I'm comfortable with this brush. It's working out for me here. Loosen up my black paint so it goes on there nice and smoothly. And let's just start with this nice little round top of our flagpole here. Circles are always tricky. Kind of got to know when to be okay with them. Otherwise we'll be here all day trying to get it just perfect. All right, let's go ahead and go put in our nice flagpole here. Awesome, and then it just peeks out just at the bottom of his little hand here. So we want to make sure we've got that just peeking out here. All right, how are you guys doing? Hopefully you're feeling happy with your gnome. He's looking really cute. let's go ahead and fill in those shoes, okay? Nice black shoes. This is where you're going to want to continue it around the bottom of your canvas. If you are wrapping it, you'll want to do that here. We'll go just clean up. This is a great time to clean up that beard, that base of the beard here. So like I was saying before, if you feel like things weren't looking so clean, this is when it's all going to start to come together for you. Okay, so we'll get these nice shoes in here. And again, while our paint is wet, let's go ahead and just load the corner in white so we can give a nice highlight to our shoes. One on each end here, just like so. Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to use that little bit of white on our brush to put a little highlight at the top of our flagpole and along the edge here. So just carry your brush up through there as much as you can. Might have to go back with some black. Don't want the gray to overtake it completely. Just want a little bit of light in there. Can be kind of tricky, but we'll try and stay to one edge there. Awesome, you guys. Okay, I'm going to rinse that brush out. Now I'm going to switch to my detail. So our detail brush is the smallest brush we have. It's a nice round, it's pointy, and it's going to help us get really good lines, okay? And the trick is to really dilute your paint. So I'm going to bring some water into my black paint and just thin it out several times with my water until I have almost the consistency of a watercolor, just really super runny. This is going to help me get really nice lines. Once I have it nice and thin, I'm going to spin my brush in it as I load it so it remains nice and pointy. And now I'm going to start to outline my gnome's hat, okay? And you should be able to get a nice, good line with your paint. If you're unable to, it's a really good sign that your paint is still too thick. So if this is causing you a lot of frustration, double check the consistency of your paint and thin it out even more, because you should be able to get a nice stripe, full stroke on your canvas without having to reload. Okay, let's go across the top here, this blue, where it meets our stripes. And you can see it's just immediately cleaning up all those edges that were kind of bugging me. Don't know if it was bothering you, but I really am a clean painter, so it's hard for me to handle these little messy edges for too long before I'm ready to fix it. So let's go. You can break up your line in sections if you're feeling a little shaky. Okay, let's go around here. And these lines are really all about pressure. The harder you push it with your brush, the thicker the line is going to be. So if you're wanting to have a thicker line, that is okay. Just press a little bit harder with your brush. If you want it thinner, try not to put too much pressure down on your brush. Okay, let's go around the top here. This is always tricky. Sometimes I just kind of pick it up. Finish it out here. Awesome job. Okay, I'm going to just continue to load. Let's go around our beard now. We're going to come down and then we're going to come up slightly into beard. You can see that just kind of slightly come up there as we're wrapping around. Okay, let's go ahead and do this side. So I'll come up and into the rest of the beard just a little bit, just kind of swoop it in. All right, let's go around our hands here. See how you should be able to just kind of follow that. I did that whole hand without having to pick up my brush or reload. Constantly checking the consistency of my paint here. I find that it's really tricky to understand thinning out your paint enough because we don't want drips or runs on our canvas. And so it's hard to find that happy medium. So right over here, we're going to do a cute little curl coming off the end of our little beard, which I think is fun to have that. So you can add that little curl there if you want. We'll come down this side here like that. All right, looking pretty good. Let's go up to our nose. And I like to do my nose in sections. I don't like to put the pressure on myself to do a full circle here. So I'm just going to come down. I'm going to stop about there. Oop, I had some black on my hand. I keep doing that tonight. And then I'm going to come this way, but not complete the circle there, if you can see that. All right, let's work on our flag. Go along these waves here. Nice and clean. This is a great painting to practice our lines. Get some more water on my brush. And just continue to follow our stripes here. Wavy flag. Getting into my paint every time I need it. Making sure it's nice and thin for me. There we go. And we are on the home stretch here. Just about finished with our masterpiece. This little guy goes in pretty quick once we get all the basic colors in. Right, so here we've got our nice flag in. Let's make sure we've got this blue section as well. And if you're feeling brave, you can even go around your star. If you watch carefully, I just let my brush do the work and just gently move my wrist as I go. All right, it is just about finished. I just have to fix my little section here that got some paint in it so I can put in that smile, my gnome's happy face. While we wait for that to dry a minute, let's go ahead and put a little bit of white around our white star, and you can clean up any sections that you feel need some attention. So you can come in with white and clean up your star, your stripes, anywhere. That's not a problem at all if you got a little bit of paint in there. I'm going to dip my detail brush into some white paint. I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of white around my star. Kind of fun. And now let's go ahead and put in our happy gnome crooked smile here. So back to the black paint. Of course you can do any kind of smile you want, but I just like this nice crooked smile for my gnome. And I think that we're all finished, you guys. We have painted our patriotic gnome. Let's make sure we sign our name. I'm going to come over to this side here. I'm going to sign right along the shoe. And make sure you do that because we should be proud of our work, right? We've worked really hard on this. And touch up any areas that you need to, and then let it dry and hang it up and display it for the holidays. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you love your painting. I would love to see it, so tag me in your photos and hope to paint with you soon. Bye-bye.